Today, we're going to start off this conversation about self-care and caring for others by introducing Valencia Agnew. She works for the Adolescent and Family Behavioral Health Services, and she has a resume like you wouldn't believe. She's going to bring into this conversation a lot of knowledge and I think a lot of insight into what it is that we can do, what we do have control over in terms of self-care. And Valencia, maybe you could just kind of give us your background so that everybody knows a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, sure. I am the owner of Adolescent and Family Behavioral Health Services, and we have two locations, one in Grand Rapids and one that we just opened in December in Holland. And we see a whole range of issues from children to adults, with our specialty being high risk clients. So that would be clients that have emotion dysregulation issues that are intense for them, and it's impacting relationships and day-to-day life, or they might be self-harming or feel chronically suicidal. So that's our specialty, while we do everything else, marriage, family, therapy. I think the only things that we really don't do other than groups for is substance abuse and eating disorders. And soon we'll be doing eating disorders. Um, yeah, so that's the gist. And self-care is obviously a topic that is near and dear to heart, and especially during now when everyone's working from home, or all of the challenges that people are facing in a variety of ways.
And Valencia, I think everybody has their own definition of self-care. For one person, it could be like, I'm going to take care of myself, but making sure that I'm getting 30 minutes of yoga. Or another person may look at self-care as, maybe giving them a little spa day at home. So it does look different for different people, right?
Correct. Yes, and we're going to address some of the differences and what are the challenges when there are differences,
Mhm.
especially within your household or your work group or your friend group.
So you are going to kind of talk us through, I know you have a PowerPoint that will help. So for those of you who are watching, I encourage you to maybe take some notes if you want. And like Rosie said, this is going to be recorded, so you can always go back and watch and learn. So I'm going to have you just kind of start things off, Valencia, then in terms of this self-care. What are maybe some tips that we can start with?
These were some questions that Rosie has received from clients, from people that have worked with Grow, just some things that you've been wondering or that others have been wondering.
Why don't you just start with the definition of self-care if you could?
Okay. So self-care, this is, I didn't give Webster Dictionary credit for it, but this is directly from the dictionary. I thought that's the easiest way to say that self-care, what it really is the practice of taking action to preserve or improve your own health. It is taking an active role in protecting your own well-being, your own happiness, and in particular during periods of stress. Is really easy for us when stress goes up to say we're too busy to do self-care. We don't have enough time, or we're too stressed. And I like to say when stress levels go up, self-care should go up, because whatever you were doing before to help you during regular base level stress, that was for base level stress. We are now in a period that is beyond base level stress. So self-care should be upped. There, there's different ways of looking at self-care. You can think of it as the 7 pillars of self-care, and that is knowledge, just increasing your mastery in some skill in some area. It might be learning a foreign language, it might be learning how to build cabinets. It's just increasing your knowledge and your health literacy. Another area of self-care is your mental well-being. I think Frequently, that's one that people think of is taking care of yourself, um, mentally, physically, spiritually, your health. So those are areas to take care of yourself. And then there's risk avoidance, that there might be some behaviors or some things to avoid the risk. That could be substance abuse. Substance abuse has increased during this time. So you want to avoid that. The new way of coping or the additional way of coping is substance abuse. And it's like, wow, I only had one problem when I went into this year. And, now I got 10 more because I've added substance abuse to it. And then there's good hygiene. And I know you hear that all the time on the commercials. Wash your hands 20 seconds. If any of you later need a cute song that can help you with 20 seconds of washing your hands, kindergartners are great for learning songs from that help. Now it's stuck in my head every time I wash my hands. So good hygiene, just taking care of your hygiene. And some days that might mean just being able to crawl out of the bed and brush your teeth and take a shower. And then the rational use of products and services. Rational use means taking meds as your doctor prescribed. Not if one pill works great, let me take 3. That's not upping the self-care. That might be creating a new problem. Or rational use of products right now might mean going to the grocery store and only getting 1 package of toilet paper instead of 20. But I think they're not allowing anyone to do that anymore. But that would be an example of rational use.
You know what I think would be fun is if everybody could hop on your comments on the chat. Tell us, looking at this self-care diagram here, tell us which one relates most to you. Is it number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7? Just everyone pop in and so we can also see whether or not the chat's working, and tell us which one is most relatable to you in terms of self-care. I think for me, I want to say 3, but it's sometimes hard to get that physical activity in, right?
3 is the hardest for me, definitely.
Okay. We've got one that says 2, mental well-being. These are good conversations to be having right now because there is no manual as to how to handle this. Rebecca, you're like me, 3 for sure. I love that. But this is a nice way to kind of look at how you can define self-care for yourself. Jamie says, I use 3 as a means of escape, like garden, and riding a bike. I love that. So I think that's very useful, Valencia. So let's talk about tips now, because I think that the majority who are here today are like, okay, what can I take from this and how do I get moving? Just like Holly, she said it was 3 for her too, that physical aspect of things. How do we go ahead and move forward?
So there's additional, that initial example that might serve as a visual for you is one way of looking at the self-care. And then there's the types of self-care. So some additional with physical, emotional, social, spiritual, personal self-care, space, paying attention to your space. One of the things that I've really come to appreciate more was my space at work and having counseling sessions in my very consistent space that looked the same every day, that I knew when I shut the door, it was shut. There would be no interruptions versus at home putting a big note on the door, do not enter, saying, be quiet at this time, keep the dog out, the dog who comes scratching. So space is also a type of self-care. I decided to create a little corner illusion of being in an office because I needed to see it in my background as part of my space. And then there's financial self-care, what that looks like right now. that is weighs heavy on a lot of people right now. And then work self-care, what that looks like, and what having balance looks like. So then self-care is like it can look different in others. Can it look different? Of course it looks different. We all do different things for self-care. You were just sharing in the chat some of the things that you do differently. And and one of the things to consider is, when do problems arise with the self-care? Because if you don't have self-care tips, I'll like have a screen up for you with some ideas of tips of things that you can do. And frequently I find it's not as much of a problem to get ideas from people of what tips that things that you can do. It's when there's a problem, when we do it differently. So someone who said exercise and yoga is important, and what if it's exercise is important and exercise is happening in the house? For my daughter, exercise is important, but her room is upstairs. And so when she's exercising, I just hear thump, 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 noise, noise of her, of her exercising. And I want to say sometimes, just stop. Don't you know somebody else lives in this house too? And it's not that it's really that awful, but her self-care is different. She really likes to go for a walk and take the dog. And my son wanted to go with her, that's younger. And she said, Mom, I just need to walk by myself. And I don't want him to feel bad that he is speaking up and asking for what he wants, but I need to have that space by myself. So sometimes the way that we do self-care, it can be different, and problems can arise based on, who you're with, who you live with, or who you work with, or who you're friends with. So keeping in mind that it can be different, and that it's okay. It's okay that it's different. It's not a rejection of me that she says I want to walk by myself. It's her taking care of herself. And that's what we have to remember, that others aren't necessarily rejecting us, or we're not rejecting them if we need to do self-care differently. And then it becomes a problem when we don't have boundaries, when perhaps you're working all day, or behind the screen all day, or you're taking care of family, you're taking care of friends, you're taking care of parents or other people, and you don't balance taking care of yourself. Then problems arise, and they can be physical and emotional problems. So definitely doing self-care is important.
Can we look at, I know you're going to share right there some ideas. What are your top three? Give me their top three as far as self-care tips and how we can all, after this, chat, start working towards them. What are the easy things? I think right now we need easy.
The easy things that you can do are, and it really depends on your personality though. So it's physically taking care of yourself, getting some type of exercise, doing something, some movement. Even, maybe it's you grab your dog and dance with your dog in the house, getting some type of movement, and that releases chemicals in your brain that is helpful to your well-being. Another is connecting with other people. If you live alone, being able to connect with others, and even living with family members, being able to connect with your social group is a second thing that you can do. And then doing something to take care of yourself emotionally, and whatever that looks like emotionally. There's the mindful apps, several of them are free right now, that I love. Headspace, that's just a way to take care of yourself emotionally.
Yeah, if people didn't know, we should mention the governor has now offered that they've teamed up with Headspace. So in Michigan, that's free. So
Okay.
take advantage of that if you can. Everyone, I love just kind of getting to know who we have here on our Zoom call. Put the number down of what on the right you see her list of 10 things to do. Which one will you do today? I want to be curious as to which one you want to work towards. I'm going to pick number 7, give grace, because I think at this time all of us kind of have to give each other grace and give ourselves grace too. That this is a moment where we're really uncertain about everything. And even the strongest person, I think, will admit to you that this has been really, really tough. So if you can jot down your number, Rebecca, number 29, pamper. Oh, yes. Pampering is good. We like to pamper ourselves. And certainly that's a really great idea for self-care. And I think that a lot of individuals are finding different ways to pamper themselves, whether it be indulging in that ice cream of the day or, finding ways that it just makes you feel good. Oh, Jamie, she's got 3 of them. She's saying number 19, which is movie, movement, and nature. I dig that. Those are great. Those are great. So I think that once people can see this list, and Valencia, this is a great list to kind of maybe even share with your friends or family. If you know how to screen cap, I would screen cap this right now. And again, you can go back and get all this information. But I'm digging this list. So Valencia, that's very helpful. Let's talk about what it means for us to focus on what we can control and what we cannot control.
Okay. So I'm going to skip through the slide then to go to
Okay,
that
thank
section.
you.
So turning your focus, things that you can't control. We can't control how long there will be a pandemic. If I believe every one of us today here, if we could control it, we'd wave a magic wand and it would be over. And we can't. And we can't control how long it will take to create a vaccine. We can't control how many stories are on the news or how many channels. We can't control that our kids are home from school and now you have to be the teacher. You can't control the economy and the businesses that they're suffering. We can't control that there's a loss of life or that people are hurting and some are hurting in solitude. Those are examples of things that we can't control. And there's other things that we can't control. And we can't control how people will handle the crisis. The things that we can control, or that I can control, is I can do my part to help prevent the spread of the virus. I can focus on something else versus trying not to focus on the pandemic. And what I mean by that, if you've ever told a child, stop running, don't run in the house, equal to that is to say, please walk. So they're not focusing on stop running, they're focusing on please walk. And instead of saying, don't think about the pandemic, don't think about the pandemic, don't think about the pandemic, I can choose to think about something else. So I turn my focus to something different. And then, for example, like with school, it's what can I control? I can control, cover what I can for school that day, and weigh out both my needs and my son's needs. What's our need for that day? I can control that versus I need to get it all done. I can control having balance. And balance isn't easy, but balance is something that you ask yourself every day, maybe even every hour. What do I need from me right now to be okay? And sometimes you need to just prop your feet up and do nothing. And other times you might find you need to plow ahead and challenge yourself, but have balance. And what I can control is pick up and take out if feasible. If I want to run and pick something up, I can control that. And I can contribute to the economy that way if I need to. I can control doing a handwritten note to a friend or a phone call or sharing memories on Facebook or something. Those are things that I can control. I have a cute little image up here that you can see that has some additional things that you can and cannot control.
I love the whole idea of those handwritten cards, Valencia, because I know that I've been doing that lately. There is such joy in getting mail that are not bills. So I hope to, be able to, like, you look at your Facebook feed and you can see who's having a tough run of this, and maybe just dropping them a little note in the mail can really just change their day. And knowing that you can do that kind of makes you feel good too. And so
Mhm.
I think it goes both ways. So great ideas there.
Yes.
You mentioned, some of the conflicts that you've been having at home, and a lot of people are working now with all of the additional background noise. My boyfriend is actually teaching a class upstairs, and so I can hear that. So it's hard to focus. I totally get what you're saying. So, what things would you recommend? I mean, I have no control of that. He has no control of when I get loud down here. It's just that open communication, I would assume, right?
Yes. We have three people in the house working from home and one child doing school from home. So everyone was instructed. It's like, I will be live at 12:30. Anything that you need to accomplish before 12:30 needs to be needs to happen before 12:30. 12:30 to 1:30. Please be in your own space at that time. So they know that. And some things we've had to like figure out by trial and error, because I'm one of the people that if I need somebody in the house, I just kind of scream. So I'm yelling upstairs to my daughter, Paige, Paige. And then it hits me. It's like, oh, shoot, she's working. She's on the phone with a client. Oh my gosh. Hope it wasn't my client. And so I've learned that if I need her, I need to go up there to the door. So it's a lot of communication and being aware when I walk into a space, instead of walking into a space and telling the dog, "Will you move? Tara, you're always in the way." Is that I need to be conscious of the space I'm walking into, because my husband might be there at the computer working. So
Yeah,
it's
we've
a
seen all
lot of
those doom situations where people are walking around not realizing what the other person is doing. Let's talk about strategies to remain connected. I know in my own workplace, we have been having weekly company meetings, which we never did before, right? This is a way that I think that our workplace is able to stay connected. So what are some strategies that, we can use? Clearly, Zoom and FaceTime is one of them.
Mhm. And this stay connected right here, the slide I have up in particular is just staying connected in general. And staying connected is, I love hearing that some families now have a scheduled Zoom time that live all around in the world, and they're getting on Zoom at the same time that they never did before. Staying in touch just via text message. My niece taught me how to make emojis. So I feel really excited that I have an emoji that just drops the mic, and that I have an emoji that does like this and then hearts come out. So text messages, phone calls, picking up the phone and calling can save a lot of time versus sending the email and waiting for a response. My son's class, a couple of kids had birthday parties, and we did a parade party. So we all came and drove through the park and held up signs saying happy birthday, and sent a gift card via email. So having parade parties was fun. And having virtual parties. My older niece turned 25. I love what she did. She posted that she had a few friends and family over, and my immediate thought was like, what in the world are you doing? And then I saw that she put some balloons up on the ceiling and pulled a string and they all fell down on her. And she's like, looking as though she was surprised. And then she had hearts with family members' pictures on her wall.
Oh, nice.
So that's who was with her during her party. And, she had a little cake for herself. So having a virtual party can be fun too. My staff has on one occasion got together and they were walking around talking and FaceTiming. And then Netflix has it where you can watch a movie and chat with your friend while you're doing that. I'm not exactly savvy enough to be spending time typing messages while I'm watching the movie, but so I hear it's fun. There's virtual board game nights. We're going to do that, our work team, one night, and we're just going to pick a game that we're going to play virtually together. You can learn something new together. We're also going to do a fitness challenge thing because Fit Body has a challenge where it's $1 per day for 28 days, and we all get fit. And maybe, I will be fit when this is over.
That is our all hope, right? Jamie said that neighborhoods have also embraced making rainbows or putting up holiday decor. I know in our neighborhood, we've seen people putting up their Christmas lights again. That feeling
Yes.
of unity there has been fun, especially when you're walking around at night. You're like, Christmas lights are out back again. So that's a
Yes.
great idea. That's a great
Yes,
idea.
it's pretty. It just makes you feel good.
Hmm.
And then making time to talk without an agenda, for work in particular. Uh, we usually have agendas and things we have to do, and just setting aside some time to have a conversation with people without an agenda. Like you're not trying to accomplish anything other than communicate that my relationship with you matters.
Well, and I find that it's interesting too that maybe somebody that you don't talk frequently with at the office and you try this out, and it's interesting how you're kind of learning about each other in a new way, right? You're not talking, like you said, about work. And I think that the first few weeks for some of my coworkers, that felt uncomfortable because you weren't used to having that coffee talk usually with that person in the office, and now suddenly you're going to be forced to maybe be encouraged by your boss to reach out to somebody you haven't reached out to before. But that's kind of been fun too, but admittedly it's uncomfortable.
Yes, it can be uncomfortable for teams that haven't done that.
Mhm.
For our team, it's very important for the work that we do as part of our structures. We check in every week to find out what is your burnout level, and so we have general conversations on a regular basis, but that's the advantage of working with a group of therapists. That's what
You
we do.
gotta talk, right?
Yeah, that's what we do.
So this has been a stressful time. I mean, in for some low stress, for some extremely high stress. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about coping with stress.
So, one of the things that, if you don't know, that our bodies just react to stress, it just reacts. You don't really have a choice. Your body makes it clear when you're feeling stress. And it's releasing hormones and adrenaline and cortisol and all of that stuff. And you might notice, like, if your heart is beating faster or your muscles tighten. I think at the time when I most need a massage therapist, no touch can happen. It's like, oh, I can feel my neck is tight. And there's benefits to when we're releasing these chemicals because we use them for when we have a test or I'm doing a presentation or when you have to slam on your brakes quickly. Like we need those chemicals to jump in and be alert and increase our reaction time. But the problem comes when we've had prolonged stress, when it's been too long, and we are all, like it or not, in a state of prolonged stress, where we're all in a state of trauma. And that means that we are helpless in in creating, like making the virus disappear. So we're living in it. We're all living in it, and it's happening every day. And the ways that you can be affected is your mental health, your physical health, your cognitive problems, and then behavioral problems. And if you have children, those are things to pay attention to as well in them, other family members, and even in your colleagues, because sometimes we don't notice that we're experiencing something until someone points out and says, gosh, you've been sitting like this for 3 days. Or I noticed that you were grumpier than usual. Are you tired? Or for me, memory is like the first thing to go, that it's difficult for me to remember things. So I
Yeah.
have to have a bazillion sticky notes to feel a sense of control. And so being aware and knowing that about yourself. So if you automatically know, gosh, my memory, I've been struggling with that. I really need to step up my self-care, because my body is responding to that stress. So I put together a list of the top 10 stressors, and it's really all about major life changes. And with us, we are all experiencing major life changes. And we're
Mhm.
not, if you haven't experienced grief and loss of someone close to you, you're hearing about it from the world. And our experiences with grief and loss are not unique anymore, where all of your friends and family could come and be around and support. People now are grieving separately. So the stress is very real, and the weight that we carry for the world, for everyone that we hear stories. So stepping up our self-care, I included some tips of things that you could do, and that's build a support network, is have someone that you can talk to and that you can just be real with. That is very important, that they're not going to judge you, that they're just going to say, you too? Wow.
Yeah.
Or laugh with you and say, too bad we can't both run away together, because like we can't go anywhere right now. And that can lighten it for you. And having confidence in yourself in some area of your life, having confidence, and having tolerant thinking versus intolerant. So intolerant thinking is, I can't do this, I can't make it, it's never going to be the same, we're never going to get over this, I don't know how in the world I'm going to get through this. That's intolerant thinking. Tolerant thinking is, I'm going to get through this. This might be hard, but I'm going to get through this. I can make it. Today, I'm not really feeling so much like I can make it, but tomorrow brings another day. So, tolerant thinking. Having a positive attitude and outlook. Because it would be easy, especially if you listen to the news or politics, to just think they're all crazy, or have some thoughts about them. And and so having a positive attitude, and so I try to think that everyone's doing the best that they can, and we all need to do better. And addressing your emotional state, that's really important. Pay attention to your emotional state, and if it's not good, reach out for help. Our office does virtual sessions, and most therapy offices are doing virtual right now. Be knowledgeable, be prepared. Uh, Keep in mind, Facebook is not a reputable source of information. I don't know if any of you saw the article about Russia had released lions on their street to keep people at home. It really seemed like a valid story right up until you do like a Snopes.com or something. And it's like, what, wait a minute.
Right. Right.
Logical, that like, it's like that can't be, because then that means they can't even let their dogs out. But like the dogs would be eaten. And then, then you start to look up things to see the truth of it. So reputable sources, exercise, relaxation, healthy eating, getting good sleep, and engaging in pleasurable events. However, you find some pleasurable events to engage in.
I think those are all great ways. I know that all of a sudden I feel like I'm an old lady because I've been taking naps between 4 and 6 o'clock every day. I'm listening to my body that's saying, you know what, just do it, because otherwise, you get into that rut, and it does invigorate me, just to manage my stress levels. Um, these are all great conversations. I'm keeping an eye on time. We've got about 15 minutes. If you have any questions, anyone, I would suggest that you go ahead and type them in right now. And I want to jump to, if we could, jump to the point about talking about the communication strategies from working from home.
Okay.
So if we can kind of talk that over, I know that all of us are dealing with that right now. So.
So some strategies are to just keep it simple. Everyone is busy. We're getting inundated with more emails than ever. I didn't think that was possible, and I have found out that it is possible for me to get more emails than I normally get. So keep it simple, be concise and to the point, and restate when it's needed, because sometimes with all of the distractions that we have, people may miss a piece of information. They might get the beginning, the end, the middle. So being able to restate something other times might be necessary. And then eliminating distractions as much as possible. Having FaceTime, meaning doing Zoom meetings with your coworkers, something so that you can just see each other, just see the faces can make a difference in a day. Keep in mind that response times take longer. Even like you responding here, we have to allow time for you to type into the chat. Or normally, if you could just walk to an office and ask a question and you have to send an email or a text, you have to wait for a response. So keep in mind it takes longer. Have a professional background. I was in a meeting today where they were laughing about someone who it looked like a garage sale was going on in the background. So being professional, setting deadlines, and trying to stick to schedules um, with start and end times, finding multiple ways and multiple platforms to connect, because not everyone does very well with Zoom. And find ways to celebrate. Normally, we would celebrate birthdays at the beginning of the month at the office. And so
Mhm.
now we can't. And we just had an intern leave, and I felt horrible that I couldn't have a little party for him. So what I did is I told him we're going to have a virtual meeting. And he didn't know that I had asked the rest of the staff to be a part of that virtual meeting, for them to all give him well wishes and words of wisdom. So we got to find ways to celebrate each other and celebrate the fact that, we survived another day of Zoom meetings. And then what I think is one of the most important things is to show grace, mercy, and compassion to yourself and to the people that you work with, because no one gave us a pandemic book, and it's all new and it's all different, and we all have different challenges, and our challenges may be different, but nonetheless it's still a challenge to me. That doesn't make mine greater or a better challenge than yours. And so compassion, mercy, and grace are really needed right now.
I think it's good if we close off talking about real quick what we can do when we are feeling that overwhelmness emotionally. I know I've had a good couple of cries. And I know that for some who aren't criers, maybe it comes out in a different form. But what can we do to kind of cope with that aspect?
Well, I am definitely a crier, and I had a day where I just started crying, and it's like, I don't know. Oh my gosh, my child is going to be like held back for 10 years with me doing homeschooling. When the tears were flowing, and it's like I need to take a nap, and I felt better. So I'm going to share a personal thing with you, and this was a post that I put on on Facebook with that picture of the lady. And I said, is anyone else experiencing sensory overload annoyance? The dog is drinking water and clicking his nails, walking around constantly. My husband is crunching, typing, and twisting clothes loudly a bag of Cheetos. My son is reading and recording the nutrients in his bag of Cheetos over and over. My phone keeps ringing, doors opening and closing, and the list goes on. Oh my word, help. And I felt like I looked like that lady that day, that was a day of being overwhelmed. And one of the things that I can recommend strongly is that you reach out to other people when you are overwhelmed. I reached out to on Facebook. That was my post, and it's like I'm being really vulnerable. Usually I'm the person that they come to for help, and they think I got it all together, and it's like I'm a hot mess too. Thank you very much. And it was absolutely fabulous, and I have saved this post so that I can go back to it whenever I need, because here's some examples of responses. Is, Auntie, we're going to need your services when this is over. Or my kids are screaming over who's using the basement for homework and who's making the Wi-Fi slow. Another one said, lavender, if you have any oil, put it on your wrists and temples. But I responded, it's like, I'm going to need to bless that oil and pour it all over my body, for it to help. I got all of these responses of people saying, I'm going crazy too. When you feel overwhelmed, just expect that you are going to feel overwhelmed at some point, and have your cope ahead game plan. Game plan for me is reach out, be vulnerable, and the people who love me are going to speak into me and feed me and help me be okay in the moment. And I have to believe that the people who love you will also speak into you during that moment and feed into you.
What do you recommend right now if people need to reach out? Are you just doing appointments online through Zoom? How are you navigating that?
Our appointments are through, it depends on which therapist you see. The majority of us are using Zoom, but ours comes through secure video. So
Gotcha.
Zoom is like the platform, but we have to have a HIPAA compliant. So there's
Sure.
like 3 levels of encryption to get to the video with us. And that's how our sessions are. People can
Okay.
schedule online. Our admins are all working from home. One is in the office 1 day a week, so today, and then the other days, Monday through Thursday, our admins are reachable just by calling our office number, and then they would get someone scheduled that needed to be.
Well, I don't know. I've learned a lot. I've been taking notes the whole time, and I think it's really useful and helpful. And so maybe, Rosie, do you want to remind people how they can get this link and how they're able to connect?
Absolutely. Thank you both. And yep, as Jennifer said, the website for Grow is growbusiness.org. And I did send out the PowerPoint ahead of time, but if you need to reach out to me directly, I think folks have my contact information, but keep an eye on growbusiness.org, and the link for this whole presentation will be up there.
Okay, Valencia, any final thoughts? I have a note here from Jamie saying, thank you for sharing. I'm an educator in Muskegon. We'll pass this on, this great supportive info, to her cohorts, and she took notes as well. So glad there's another note taker. But final thoughts, if you would like, Valencia.
Just the grace, mercy, and compassion. Give yourself a lot of it. We can be hard on ourselves, and women in particular can be hard on ourselves. And if you're business owners as well, you're wearing multiple hats. So show yourself a lot of love right now.